Hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Sorry to leave you waiting.
No
But
worries.
I live in Germany and apparently people are still stuck in World War and they need to make fucking noise outside.
Of
Which is
course.
a bit irritating, but it seems like they finally got their shit together, which took a little bit longer than anticipated. But we went through it. Okay, good. So, oh man, I need to breathe air. Air is great. I don't know who invented it, but it's good. So, before we get into this, I need to get a few disclaimers out of the way.
Okay.
So, actually, before we do that, I just want to give you some props and respect for taking a session in the first place, because you've especially players at your skill rating, like kind of high diamond or people who've even broken into master once. That's usually the rating where people tend to be like content with their rating, I guess. Like that's the first rating that people see as good.
Yeah.
So they usually don't even bother with, continuing and then just like, keep on playing casually or whatever. So you're already quite a few steps ahead of them in that department. So good on you. Now, before we get into this, let's get the disclaimers out of the way. So these are pretty boring, but they'll answer your questions. So first of all, everything you say, do, or show me inside of the session is treated completely confidentially, so you don't have to worry about me talking, about anything with anyone or using it for a video or anything.
Fair
Okay?
enough.
Good. Second of all, I really, with two L's, recommend you to take notes. You can record the session as well for personal use, but even if you do that, I still urge you to take notes. Trust me. Okay? Great. And then last but definitely not least, each session always comes with a 5-day coachee pass. So, if you have any questions after the session, just let me know.
Will do.
Okay? Sick. Okay, now here's how we're going to structure this. We're going to kind of split this into two parts. First, we are going over the form you had to fill out when you got the session. And then after that, we'll go and look at your VOD, hopefully. Okay?
Awesome.
Good. So the first question that I had is, you mentioned that you've been playing seriously since May of 20... I was about to say May this year, but I forgot that it's already 2018. Okay, so since May of last year, I guess. When did you start playing the game in general?
Probably a month before that. I get into games really quickly, so as soon as I got into competitive, I got really into it.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so and the first thing we need to get out of the way, and that's probably the thing that's most interesting to you, is your hero pool. Because you're kind of going in the wrong direction in a way that you probably weren't aware of. So, you've been one-tricking Junkrat, which is fine. Like, he's a very one-trickable character, especially considering how strong he is at the moment. But you decided to branch out, which is fine. Okay, I actually, usually recommend having around 3 different characters in a hero pool that you regularly play. Okay. So it's good that you branch out. But you need to keep some guidelines in mind, I guess, when choosing a hero pool. So one of those guidelines is that you should try to avoid mixing hit scan with projectile. Okay. So you can probably see why I started talking about this, because you mentioned that you picked up, Diva, Soldier, McCree, and Ana. All of those characters being hit scan.
Yeah.
And that's not great, because even though you play the game a lot, which is good, you don't play it enough to actually, maintain 2 different aiming styles at top performance. So, considering that you just picked up those characters, you probably won't really, hesitate too much switching, because I would really recommend you stick with characters that, are in the kind of projectile direction.
Okay, that makes sense.
I guess you can keep Diva, kind of, because while she is technically hit scan, she doesn't really need that much aim compared to the others, but Soldier, McCree, Ana, whenever you'll switch between Junkrat and those characters, you're going to just kind of reset. And you don't really want to lose all of your warm-up in the middle of a game, because you have to switch from Junkrat to Ana, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So with that in mind, what are your thoughts?
Well, I actually had not thought about that before, but that makes complete sense. And no, I wouldn't hesitate to kind of play other projectile heroes. I just
So
kind
what
of
other characters
go
interest
with
you?
those. I think I played a lot of Hanzo on kind of Smurf accounts, so that was a lot of fun. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like anything that does a lot of burst damage is a lot of fun for me.
Okay, so I guess as a support pick, that would basically make Zenyatta the obvious choice,
Absolutely.
considering you can one-shot people with right-click. Okay, so let me write this down. Okay, so we have Junkrat, we have Zenyatta. Okay, so we need someone else. Can either be another DPS or another or a tank. It's really up to you. You don't necessarily need to cover all three roles. You can also pick
Yeah.
another DPS
I
character.
think DPS would probably be the best.
Okay, so which one would that be?
Well, I'm thinking Genji, honestly, because he's probably my worst hero, but I want to learn how to play him and get well with him.
Okay, sure. That's fine. Now, Junkrat and Genji have two very, very, very different playstyles,
Yeah.
obviously. So you'll have to kind of get used to them. But no, I think that hero pool is fine. I think that's a pretty good hero pool. Now, the other thing is, and this one is just kind of like I kind of have to mention it just out of transparency. But it's about your oh god, man, typing's hard. There we go. It's about your sensitivity.
Okay.
So your sensitivity was 1800 7.5. Now, the way you usually compare sensitivities is using eDPI within the same game, and 3 centimeters per 360 if you talk about multiple games. Now, since we're just talking about Overwatch, let's just stick with eDPI. And
Okay.
eDPI is simply your DPI multiplied by your in-game sensitivity. Now, as a general recommendation, players should try to not go below 2000 eDPI, but also not go past 10,000 eDPI. Because when you go past 10,000 eDPI, you are physically handicapping yourself, because you just, like, a human just can't make, certain small adjustments that might be necessary
Right.
in game at those sensitivities potentially. And that can obviously affect your skill cap, especially so on characters like Zenyatta, for example. On Zenyatta, you won't just right click people who are standing directly in front of you. It's quite the opposite, actually. If someone is standing right in front of you, you probably fucked up as Zenyatta.
Yeah.
So you'll have to really aim at a distance, and I think that with 13,500 EDPI, that could potentially become difficult. Now, it's not within complete unreasonable territory, right? Like, it's not, the 30,000 EDPI that I've seen before. But it's just kind of a fair warning that if you ever feel kind of uncomfortable with your aim, it could be because of that. And I would recommend you to eventually, if that's the case, if you seem to struggle with aiming consistently, that lowering your sensitivity could potentially help. Okay? Good. Okay, so now your main goal. I would like to get into the pro scene, but the main goal for now is to learn how to get better so that I can improve my gameplay overall and continue learning how to adapt. Okay, don't worry, we'll go over that in a second. Why do you want to get into the pro scene?
It's probably for the fact that I just always want to try to be the best at everything. So, I would like to kind of get into the top of Overwatch. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but seeing that as a long-term goal, I think is something that drives me to keep playing and getting better.
Okay. Yeah, as long as it's a drive, it's completely fine. Just a warning though that with your hero pool, it might be hard, or like with your old hero pool. So
absolutely.
Okay. Good. Okay. Now, what did you do to improve before? I watched a bit of pro gameplay, but don't feel like I got a whole lot of information from those due to not fully understanding why they did some of the things they did. As well as watching high elo streamers, I love pro like Crow. Ooh, who would have thought?
Right.
Who would have thought? Okay. Because he was able to teach me how to start getting better, as well as how to get less tilted with the game when things don't quite go my way. I also review my own gameplay whenever I feel that I don't fully understand why the game that went the way it did, both wins and losses. Okay. And this is, I guess, going to introduce the first kind of lesson I'm giving you. So if this is where you should get your notebook out or your Google Drive, I don't care, and start typing. Because you're making the mistake of you're basically two things that separately that should be combined. Okay? You watch pro gameplay and you review your own gameplay. But you already figured out why those things aren't really that great. Because when you watch your own gameplay, it can be hard to figure out what exactly you should have done.
Right.
And if you watch pro gameplay, it can be hard to fully understand what they're actually doing. Okay? One example. Let's say you're playing, I don't know, Tracer on Lijiang Tower, just a random character map combination. And as you walk out of spawn, on gardens, for example, you just walk along and you try to flank like via the right. Okay, you walk through, you end up behind the enemy team, everything is fine, you start shooting people. Okay, now no matter how often you would watch that VOD, you would never figure out that the route you took was wrong, because it wasn't being punished, right? Like it worked out from your perspective.
Right.
Okay, or maybe you use, let's say you're playing Ana, and you use your nades on teammates a lot, and it works out, right? Like you don't see that using your nades on teammates is a bad thing. I mean, why would you? You hear them, okay?
Right.
There's no like negative repercussions, like whereas if you're out of position, then you die. So that's very, very obvious, okay? But those are the things that keep you from climbing. It's not obviously, you should try to minimize your deaths, but it's usually not the moments where you feed that hold you back. It's the moments where you could have carried, but you didn't know how. Okay? No matter how often you watch your Ana VODs, you won't really ever figure out that you should use your nades on enemies instead of teammates because it's stronger, because, it works on teammates, so there's no reason for you to even think about it. Okay? And that's why I want to introduce you to something called reference reviews. So a reference review, the main point behind that is to basically bring these two things together. Okay, so the first step obviously being you need to get your own VOD. Okay, however you want to record it, just get one of your games. Okay, so let's say you play Junkrat on, give me any map.
Anubis.
Anubis, okay, so let's say you're playing Junkrat on Anubis. Now, that is your own VOD. Now, the next step is you need to start searching for references. Okay. Now, the higher you get in terms of skill rating, the more references you'll eventually need in order to kind of, spot the differences, essentially.
Right.
So your rating, I would say around 2 references is probably good. And then once you get into, Master and you can hold yourself there, that's when you can start looking into 3 references. And I wouldn't really go past 3. I think 3 is usually a decent size. So the way you would do that is the easy method of just going to YouTube and searching for Junkrat Anubis. That can work sometimes, if you're lucky. But other times, what ends up happening is that you just see VODs that are super outdated.
Okay.
So the more consistent way is to go to Twitch. Okay. You go to your favorite Junkrat streamer, and in this case, you don't really have a lot of choice. There's basically only Pro Like Crow.
Yeah.
And you go through his past broadcasts. And what you'll do is you'll go through them. You don't have to watch them. You just skim through them. Okay. And you go through all of the maps that he played in those broadcasts. Okay. Until you find him eventually play a round of Temple of Anubis. Okay. You can even archive all of those VODs. Like you can have a Google Sheet open on the side, and you can just write down, okay, in this past broadcast at this timestamp, he played this map, so that in the future, if you want to do a reference review, you have all of those VODs, documented, essentially. So you do that until you eventually find 1 or 2 VODs of him playing Temple of Anubis. Okay, it can be the same player, it just has to be 2 different versions of the game, essentially. Okay, it can't be the same game, obviously. So you'll do that. Okay, if you find any other Junkrat streamers, you can do that as well. Just someone who's better than you, the standard, essentially, that you want to reach. Okay. Now that you've done that, and if you can't find any suitable VODs, then just try to use another one of yours. If you can't find anything for Anubis, then maybe try using, another one that you found, maybe on Lijiang Tower, for example, just any VOD. Okay, now the next step is these VODs are very, very long. And that's problematic because by the time you're done watching them, you've probably already forgotten about the start. So what you need to do is you need to go and compartmentalize them. So for Temple of Anubis, for example, you would split it into attack and defense, and then again in the first and the second point. So you have Temple of Anubis split into 4 nice pieces. Okay. And the important thing is these 4 pieces, they need to be comparable between games. Okay. So it's usually just the checkpoints, or in King of the Hill, it's the 3 different submaps of that specific, over map.
Right.
Okay. Now you're gonna do the same compartmentalization with your VOD, and then you're going to choose the first compartment. So let's say on Anubis you choose second point defense as Junkrat. Okay, that's something that you really, really struggled with, so that's what you want to start with. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your references, and you're going to watch all of your references defend the second point, okay? Starting from when they lose the first point, all the way until the end of the defense. Okay? And you're going to watch them, all of your reference VODs back to back, okay? If you have 3 reference VODs, you're going to watch someone defend the last point on Anubis 3 times in a row. Now, once you've done that, you're going to go and switch over to your own VOD now, okay? And this is, so with the pro VODs, you don't really need to take any notes. You just kind of soak them in, essentially. But now with your VOD, okay, that's when you kind of start taking notes, and you start watching it, okay? And these things that weren't really obvious to you, okay? The fact that you took the incorrect route, the fact that you used your ability in an unoptimal way, the fact that you maybe didn't flank often enough, okay? All of those things, okay, they are things that contribute to your losses that aren't immediately obvious because they don't get punished, okay? But obviously you need to still get rid of them, okay? You need to, because they're still holding you back. They're causing you losses even though you don't immediately see it.
Right.
So if, on Anubis, for example, let's say you watched 3 references of, a Junkrat defending on Anubis. And in all 3 of those references, the Junkrat played, just a random example. All of their Junkrats placed their trap on like the right side in that little, ruin kind of area with a small health bar. Just an example, okay? This is not like actually where, I don't know where they fucking place it.
Fair enough.
And then you'll go to your own VOD, but you realize you don't place it there. You place it on the left side. Okay? And normally you wouldn't bat an eye. You're just like, okay, I placed my trap there. Sometimes it works. It's nice. Okay? But if you've just watched 3 professional Junkrat players place their trap on the right side, you placing your trap on the left side is going to really, really, really mess with your brain. Because it kind of got used to the professional gameplay. Your brain is always trying to, like, I guess, reverse engineer the gameplay, kind of. Like, it's trying to understand and predict it because it doesn't like things that are unpredictable.
Right.
So if you now show it your own gameplay, it's going to try and predict what's going to happen based on what it just saw. You were kind of calibrating your brain, I guess. But it's not getting that, okay? It's basically getting shocked over and over again. It's like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? This is not protocol. Abort mission,
right.
Okay? Why is he putting his trap on the left side? And it's going to be, like, painfully fucking obvious to you. You're going to feel like shit afterwards, but that's kind of the point. And you're going to write all of these differences down. Okay? Some of these differences are going to be map-specific, but some of the differences, like the Ana grenade example earlier, for example, those aren't map-specific. They are the same on every single map.
Right.
So you write those down. Okay, and you go to the, to the second point attack, and then the first point defense, and the first point. Basically, you go through the entire VOD depending on how much time you have. And each time you do this, you're going to write down more and more and more notes. Some are going to be very specific, some are going to be more general. Usually, you're going to figure out the general ones a lot more. Okay? And it's really going to show you all of those missed opportunities, all of those things that you do wrong that you don't really get punished for. Okay? And this is kind of your to-do list, okay? And now, the reason why this method works so well is because there's no judgment involved. There's no qualification needed, okay? You don't need to be good at Overwatch in order to see the difference that they place their trap on the right and you place yours on the left. You don't even need to know how the ability works. All you need to know is that there's a difference, okay? And they are top 500, you're like low master, high diamond.
Right.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to get rid of that difference. Okay, piece by piece by piece. And eventually your end goal is not directly to become a better player, because that's not a goal you can really judge. Okay, you don't know what it means to be a better player because you're not a better player. Your main goal is to make your own gameplay indistinguishable from professional gameplay. Okay, so that, this feeling of cringe that you get after you switched from the pro VODs to your own VOD, okay, that's going to fade away each time you do it, okay, until eventually you just can't spot a difference between your own gameplay and the pro gameplay. At which point, you can either start using more references, which is going to help you kind of find even smaller mistakes that you probably didn't spot. Or ideally, once you actually can't tell any differences anymore, you're probably where you want to be. Okay? Right. And that's when you start kind of, instead of just catching up to the competition, that's when you try to actually overtake the competition and figure stuff out on your own. Okay? Okay. Do you have any questions about that process?
No, that seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, good. So you can also, let me find it. So these are pretty old, but the reason they're old is because I honestly just couldn't find a reason to replace them because they still work perfectly fine. These are, where are you? There you are. These are some examples that some of my coachees have done before. So those are just kind of, tests, essentially, where they just kind of picked one or two references and started doing a review on them. So if you need some inspiration, you can go over those and look how they approach the entire thing. Okay?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, great, good. So now that we have that out of the way, okay, so that's kind of going to be your general routine to improving. I would usually recommend doing these once a week and then applying, trying to practice on one of the things you've noted down, trying to eliminate one of the differences each day of the week, okay? One thing that's very important for improvement is deliberate practice. And it might be a term that you've heard before, but people kind of suck dick at explaining it, so let me try. So regular practice would be just doing what you want to get better at, okay? So for example, if you want to get better at Overwatch, it would be just playing Overwatch, right. Okay? But the problem with regular practice is, it can be very overwhelming because there's so much stuff going on in Overwatch. You need to keep so many things in mind: the kill feed, ult charge, positioning, movement, aim, cooldown management, ability, all of those things. And the game is also incredibly fast-paced, which doesn't really help either. So what ends up happening is you try to focus on all of those things. But maybe you've noticed it's when you need to focus on too many things at once, you kind of stop focusing on anything at all, to be honest. Yeah. Okay? Which means that if you try to just regularly practice Overwatch by simply playing, you're not really actually improving at anything because, you can't focus. You're just going to autopilot, essentially, because that's the only way that you can process all of those inputs coming in. Okay? And that's bad, obviously, because so being on autopilot is not a bad thing, but if you want to improve, you don't want to be on autopilot, you want to actually fix your autopilot, you want to train your autopilot. Okay? But if you aren't focusing on anything, as a result of you trying to focus on everything at once, your autopilot isn't being trained. So the way you improve is by always doing something called deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is not just doing the thing and getting overloaded by all of these things you need to keep track of, but it's by deliberately focusing on one specific thing and blending all other things out. Okay. So if we take, the Junkrat example, okay, one thing that you might want to work on is your trap placement, okay? So that is one simple thing that's very, very, very easy to focus on, okay? Now you'll obviously have to kind of keep all of the things to the side, okay? You kind of have to neglect them, you won't be able to think as much about your positioning or cooldowns or the kill feed, okay? Right. But you're just focusing on this one specific thing. And the point behind this is now that you're actually focusing on one thing, instead of focusing on nothing at all because you're overloading yourself, that actually trains your autopilot. So as you keep focusing on it, as you keep you try to place a trap, you evaluate whether it was good or not. You place a trap, you try to evaluate. Place a trap, evaluate. That kind of teaches your autopilot what's a good trap, what's a bad trap. And you keep doing that for a few days or with very large topic, even a week or two. But eventually it'll become second nature, okay? Eventually it'll become so easy to you, okay? And that's another important thing to realize, okay? Improving is not necessarily getting better at difficult tasks. It's just difficult tasks becoming easy for you, okay? So, climbing to Grandmaster or top 500 for you right now seems very, very difficult. But with enough practice, it'll seem like ridiculously easy. Okay, right. And the same way that climbing to platinum for you is ridiculously easy, probably, but to a bronze player, it's an unachievable feat.
I completely understand that, because when I first started playing, I placed bronze and climbed up to here, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it is definitely possible. That's true. Okay, so you deliberately focus on that thing, and that trains your autopilot. So now, okay, let's say you've done that, and now you're focusing on using your minds for mobility. Okay, just again another example. So you leave all of the other things in autopilot, but this time your autopilot knows how to correctly place traps. So you can, correctly place traps while focusing on your mobility using mines. Until, using mines for mobility becomes second nature. At which point you can start focusing on correct ult usage, correct positioning, strafing at the correct times, target prioritization, etc., etc., etc. And each time you focus on all these things, you train your autopilot. And at the start, it's going to be very, very hard and very demotivating. And it's one of the main reasons why people struggle to climb, because once you start focusing on one specific thing, you'll obviously see a small dip in performance because you aren't putting as much thought into the other things. Okay. But in the long run, think of it as kind of a slingshot. Like, you need to go back a little in order to be catapulted forward, essentially. Okay. Okay, good. So, your biggest weakness, tracking enemy ults, as well as not fully understanding what it is that I should be doing to improve myself. Well, I just told you, so I guess that question kind of answered itself. Now, regarding tracking enemy ults, again, that's just a thing that you can deliberately practice. Now, the problem with tracking enemy ults, don't overcomplicate it. Okay. In general, you just need a very, very broad understanding of it. You don't really need to be able to track them on the percentage specific.
Of course.
Okay. So just and when in doubt, just assume that they have their ultimates. It's always better to assume they have their ultimates than to assume that they don't.
Okay.
Okay. And tracking enemy ultimates isn't it'll just come second. There's really no way to explain it, but you just kind of start feeling that, oh, I think this Zarya has her ultimate. Okay? Just based on the way that she plays. Because as you play, you'll get graviton surged over and over and over and over again, okay? Absolutely. And that teaches your brain, okay? Your brain is going to see all those, and it's going to learn. It's going to figure out, oh, okay, so this is what a Zarya looks like who's about to use her ultimate. And eventually, you'll be able to predict it even further ahead, okay? So for example, I can usually predict whether a Zarya is going to ult or not, 10 seconds before she actually does it, okay? Just based on how she uses her bubbles differently, how she positions herself, how she moves around, okay? But obviously, you don't need to do that. As long as you can, know it a few seconds before, that's usually good enough. And that's actually how, real machine learning works as well. You just give the machine or the computer a sample size, okay, and you tell it, a bunch of clips from Zaryas using ultimates and a bunch of clips from Zaryas not using their ultimates. And it's going to figure out, okay, so this is what the Zarya did, when she was about to ultimate, this is when she didn't. And the larger the sample size, the better he'll get at predicting. And it's actually kind of scary, because with the current advancements in machine learning, it is actually not unreasonable to think that there might be an AI eventually, that can play Overwatch for you. And I don't know if you got the news. Do you know about the OpenAI with Dota?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
Yes. That's basically what they did, okay? They basically did just what I explained to you. They basically did reference reviews with that AI. Just, a few million each day instead of just one each week.
That's crazy.
And that taught it, to predict what the professional players were going to do before they even know they were going to do it, essentially. Which is a little spooky because, back in my time, we used aim hacks. But in the future, people are just going to use fucking AI to get them to top 500.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a little retarded, but okay, that's an interesting thought process. Okay. Do you warm up before playing most of the time? Yes. Why just most of the time?
I feel like sometimes I just kind of want to get right into the game. As of recently, I started doing it a lot more. I think a couple of months ago, I just used to jump right into comp and not really care.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I don't actually want you to warm up for the sake of warming up. Like warming up occasionally is usually good enough. Theoretically, you don't always have to warm up.
Right.
The reason I do want you to warm up regularly, however, is again because of deliberate practice. So you need to essentially, okay, it's kind of like with sleeping. Like maybe you know about this, but people who struggle with sleeping, one of the best advice that they usually get is to kind of come up with a sleep ritual. Okay, where they just get told, okay, every day before you go to bed, you do these things in the following order. Okay, you take a shower, you brush your teeth, you drink some warm milk with honey, and you watch a Netflix episode. Okay, in that specific order. And the reason for that is not that milk helps with sleeping easier. It's not that watching Netflix is a great idea before sleep. It's about establishing this routine, okay? Because your brain is going to figure out, oh, okay, every single day at 10 p.m., I do these things in that order, and after that, I go to bed, okay? So that kind of teaches the brain and makes it so that, even before you actually go to bed, you start getting even more tired because your brain knows that every single day at 10 p.m., whenever you do this ritual, the ritual ends with you sleeping, and it can predict that, okay? So as soon as you start taking a shower, your brain already knows, okay, he's probably preparing for sleep. I should go into sleep mode. And it's the same thing with warming up regularly, because when one part of deliberate practice is consistency in terms of routine. So if you only warm up occasionally, then that can be very, very confusing. And I know it sounds like complete bullcrap, but you need to stick with me for a second here. So you really want to try and warm up consistently, not like even if you don't need the warm up, okay? Just so that you kind of get into the right mindset and there's some consistency that you can work with, okay? And in a similar way, you can also do that near the end, okay? So when you're done playing, maybe every single time you stop playing, you go and watch a streamer for an hour or so, okay? Just make sure that your schedule has some sort of, repetition or consistency to it, okay? Okay, good. Now your great questions. What usually goes through your mind when trying to decide on what to do? Are there any steps you take in your mind to assess your surroundings in order to best judge what your next steps should be? I think I've told you enough so that you can answer that question on your own. Can you try to what do you think I'm going to answer?
Like you were saying, kind of with the autopiloting,
with the autopilot, I don't think about shit in game.
Right.
The only thing that I focus on in game is one thing that I specifically want to improve on. So right now, for example, I don't play the game a lot anymore, so I don't have the time. But when I play, one of the main things that I try to improve on, because I think it's a very big weakness I have, is my movement. Because one thing I noticed is that movement is a lot more in depth than people think. Movement isn't just about dodging shots. Movement is about controlling like duels in general. So one idea behind movement is that you should adapt your movement to the amount of threat that you're in.
Okay.
So when there's a lot of danger, you should, like, your autopilot should just recognize that, oh crap, I'm in danger. I should just automatically spam AD, AD, AD. And on the other hand, if it notices that you're not in danger, it shouldn't spam AD, AD, because AD, AD makes you harder to hit, but it also makes it harder for you to hit shots. Right. Okay. So that's the thing that I'm working on, kind of trying to figure out when I should be, moving and when I can get away with just standing still and taking my shots. Okay. So I guess that's the thing that goes through my mind. But all of the other things, they're just in autopilot. Like, sure, sometimes they get rusty and sometimes my autopilot, does something wrong. But it's not worth it for me to put any conscious effort into those things, because putting conscious effort into those things wouldn't make any difference. Like, even if I would consciously think about all of my ultimates, I would still mess up my ultimates, probably just as often as if my autopilot was doing it for me. So there's really no point in thinking too much about it. Okay. And for pro teams, they don't think about like that much either. Okay, it just happens automatically. The main thing they think about are things like, what are the enemies doing? Okay, things that you can't really put on autopilot. Okay, things that need to be controlled manually, or communication, for example. You can't really communicate on autopilot. That doesn't really work.
Right.
Okay, so those are the things that like set those players apart, essentially. Yeah. Okay. So yes, there isn't really like something that goes through my mind. It depends on what I'm trying to improve on at the moment. Okay. Exactly, so that I won't have to, let it go through my mind. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And also, as more and more things become autopilot, the more space you have to breathe, because at the start, players tend to tunnel vision a lot.
Right.
Okay. Where they don't really know a lot about their surroundings because they're trying so hard to focus on everything but end up focusing on nothing at all. As more and more of your gameplay becomes autopilot, the more you'll gain an overview over the game. Like, for example, when you watch your VODs, sometimes you'll see really, really stupid things that you didn't pick up in game. Maybe the tracer who you saw flanking to the right, but you didn't notice in game. Or maybe how you obviously wasted your ultimate at the wrong time. But that was like you were completely oblivious to that in game. Okay. And that's because while you're watching the VOD, you don't really need to focus on anything. Okay, you just look at the gameplay and you're focusing on thinking about it. And the more stuff gets on autopilot, the more you get into the state whenever you're actually in game. Okay, where you can like literally look like not like literally, but you can like only have the screen in your peripheral vision, and you can still play well. Okay. So yeah, over time, like as you improve these things, you'll be able to assess your surroundings a lot easier. Again, improving is not getting better. Improving is things becoming easier to you. Okay. Okay. Good. So, do you have any questions that you didn't put down there?
I don't think so. Nothing comes to mind at the moment.
In that case, we can now look at your gameplay.
Oh gosh.
So, now, oh my god, this is okay. Wait, I need to fucking. Okay, it's so annoying. My Windows is being stupid.
I know that feeling.
Okay, there we go. Screw you. Screw you. Die. Everything should die. Go. Yes, I want to do this. Yes, please. Please do it. I believe in you. Oh, nice. Windows actually did something. Okay, great. So, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. We probably won't be able to go through the entire VOD.
Okay.
But I can also tell you that would be super, super unnecessary anyways, because the mistakes, the most useful mistakes for you to know about are mistakes that you do all of the time anyways. Okay?
Okay.
So like your most important mistakes are going to be very, very evident near the start of the game anyways, so there's really no point in like, pointing them out 30 times in a row.
Right.
Okay, so click on this link, put in a random username, and click on continue. Ooh, Rogue AKM is no longer contracted by Rogue. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay. Are you in? Can you see the VOD?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay. So, considering we won't go over anything, is there like a specific side that you want to go over?
I think it was the defense. It ended up going into the overtime rounds, but I think it was the first defense.
Well, that makes it easy because then we can just start watching from the start. Okay, where did you place your trap? Okay, I guess that's pretty standard. One little tip that I can give you: I wouldn't place my bomb directly on the mine. Because once you start going into higher ranks, people will realize, like, they will just instinctively melee the ground. And meleeing, your mine has like 25 HP, a melee is going to destroy it. So usually the smarter choice would be, you know, to kind of go and place it a bit more to the side, okay? And also, you don't really want to place your trap on the middle of the road either, because most people prefer to like leave at these edges, like they don't really like going out in the middle. So what I would have done is place my trap, you know, kind of over here, and then place your mine against this thing here, because that way, you know, people aren't going to destroy it as easily, and you're basically guaranteed, you know, that it's going to work.
Okay.
Okay.
I hear you, pumpkin.
And Junkrat gameplay is always so exciting to watch. It's just
Always.
so much spamming. Okay. Nice. So clearly he doesn't know about the meleeing part. Okay. Now this position isn't that great. So the kind of the kind of problem that I have with this position right now is like it's fine. But I'm worried about what happens if the enemies just hard engage.
Right.
Okay.
In my view, I usually have that position because I can see the choke. If they go left, I can see that, as well as engage them if they go all the way around. And I always keep an extra mine to get out of there quick if they do a hard engage.
It's not even about like your mine. Your mine is a very, very, very slow escape tool.
Right.
Like until you actually land where you want to land, seconds can pass, which is, you know, extremely risky. Okay.
Okay.
And also it's Temple of Anubis. The enemies are going to have a Widowmaker.
Yeah.
And a Junkrat flying through the air is an incredibly easy target. Okay. So you don't just want to say, oh, I can be in this position because I can escape easily. Okay. You should be in a position where you shouldn't even have to, you know, really escape. Okay.
Okay.
And also, you're not really a huge threat from this position either. Okay. It's very important that as Junkrat you try to always have as much pressure or like as much presence as possible. Okay. But once they actually dove you, instead of continuing the spam in this direction, you had to fire from this direction just based on your positioning. And also, you couldn't really use your mines. Okay. Look what ends up happening. Your teammates are essentially feeding, and you still have both of your mines available. Right. Each one of them dealing 120 damage. Okay. So it would have been much better if you would have positioned yourself with your teammates. Okay. So that when the Winston dives in, okay, you can just run into the Winston, you can throw your mines at him, and you can just one-shot him. But right here, you can't just do that. Okay. And you know, or like same thing with D.Va, you can't really do anything against the D.Va. And also, since there's a Widowmaker somewhere over here, you can't really jump up to the Widowmaker either to maybe contest her, because your team doesn't really look like it has a lot of verticality. Okay? So at this point, the point is already lost, and there we go.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Okay, so very, very easy for a Widowmaker to pick you up. So you definitely should have positioned yourself with your teammates there, and really, like, show the enemies your presence, okay? One important part of positioning is effective range, and I don't feel like you were within an effective range there, because the definition of an effective range is being in a position where you can use your character's entire kit to its fullest potential.
Okay.
And I feel like you couldn't really do that there. Also, one important thing with Junkrat is actually not like... I mean, he's not always this kind of long-range spammy character that you're playing right now. One of the strongest changes that they made to him, in my opinion, was that he no longer took self-damage from his own bombs. Which basically allows him to, in certain situations, play very, very aggressively. Now, what are those situations? When should you play close range with Junkrat?
I feel like usually in tighter areas, like kind of where I'm at now, and like when tanks tend to dive in, I can get right in their face and do a lot of damage to them.
It's a bit more general than that. It's not really about the map. So the main thing is okay. So there are two times when you should be aggressive. Okay, this is new in Junkrat specific. This is just in general. So you should be aggressive either if you basically already won the team fight and you just want to farm, ult charge, and clean up. Okay. Or you should play aggressively when the fight is going to be lost anyways and there's no way to recover. So,
okay.
On the second point, there's no way to recover. If you lose a team fight here, the enemies are probably going to get the point. Okay? So if the enemies here, for example, would just run in and kill everyone, okay, you shouldn't go back, because if you go back, you're going to lose the point anyways. Okay. Instead, what you should do is you should realize, okay, either I can play defensively here, which gives me a 100% chance of losing the point, or I should play very, very aggressively here and at least try to take someone with me, which means that we can, snowball the spawn advantage and eventually overcome the enemies. Okay. And it's something you'll see in Pro VODs as well. One of the huge differences between professional players and regular players is that regular players don't really notice when they're basically dead already. Whereas high-level players, what they do is they just realize, okay, I'm dead anyways, and instead of, trying to save themselves, okay, they just accept their death and they kind of turn into martyrs. Okay? Whereas lower-level players, like, even when it's so fucking obvious that they're going to die, they could literally be in this room, okay, and there could be, like, a D.Va coming from one direction and a Reaper from the other, and they would still try to somehow make it out. Whereas a high-level player would be like, oh, okay, fuck this, I'm probably gonna die here. I'm just gonna try to take the D.Va out of mech with me, okay? So those are the situations in which you need to play very close range. Now, your Pharah actually got the pick on the Widowmaker. She gets rezzed, you lose your Ana. Okay, so now this is a time where you need to play aggressively, because look at the kill feed. You've already lost a bunch of picks, okay? The enemy Widowmaker is pressuring you pretty hard, okay? So right now, you do not want to focus on staying alive, okay? Staying alive for you right now doesn't really matter, okay? Since you have the spawn advantage. Okay, so the smartest thing for you now would be to play very aggressively, try to get a kill. Ideally, that kill is going to give you your ultimate, and you can then use your ultimate to get another kill, and hopefully slowly retake it. What you shouldn't do is play like a pussy. Okay, so... Okay, you kind of get into close range. Now you're running away again. Look, where's the martyr? Okay, there we go. Okay, now ideally, you should go and, and engage with your mites. Like, there we go. Like, don't be scared of the Zenyatta. Look, you're trying... Do you see how hard you're trying to stay alive right now?
Yeah, I do.
You're really trying very hard to stay alive, okay? Even though what you could have done instead is maybe look for the Widowmaker, okay? I think she's still on that high ground.
She is.
Okay? So instead of, because you know that if you don't take down that Widowmaker, this is looking very bad for you. Okay? Well, this was a nice tire. Okay, so you should be able to defend this. I think so. Okay? But that was one of the situations where you were in a, like... If you are in a position... Like, in that position, you were basically destined to die. Okay, like, you surviving in that position was very unlikely, so you should have just realized, okay, I'm gonna die here anyways. Let me just, like, go all in. Okay. So yes, luckily your ultimate kind of carried that fight, so at least that's something. That trap is evil. That trap was great. Actually hilarious. Okay. I think the enemy's not... I was about to say, why did you stay there?
I honestly don't know.
Do you really think that, like, the D.Va didn't get, like...
I knew she knew I was there, but I was thinking she was gonna fall back, and it was totally wrong.
You just trapped her! Do you think she's got... Like, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah.
Okay, that was actually fucking hilarious. So this was a situation where you played close range, even though you shouldn't have played close range, because... Was the fight already lost?
No.
It hasn't even started yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Was the fight already won?
No.
It hasn't even started yet. Yeah, okay. So, you do not, like, if the fight hasn't even started yet, that's when you want to focus 100% on staying alive. Okay? Because right there, okay, in higher level games, it's really about which team is going to give up the first pick. And right there, you gave up the first pick. Okay? And you do not want to give up the first pick, because, like, I know it sounds harsh, but you literally threw the point. Like, you actually did. You're, like, the sole reason. If you wouldn't have died there, you could have defended this.
Yeah.
Okay? And then, right here, you're probably... Okay, so you know that there are five... Like, all of your teammates are dead at this point.
Yeah.
Okay? So what you should have done is you should have just, like, dropped a mine, okay, jump in, try to run into someone's face and take them with you. Okay? But... You're not really doing that. Look where you died. You didn't die in a position, like, at least try to take someone with your passive. Okay? But nobody's going to care about your passive over there. So as you should have at least tried to, like, take someone. It wouldn't really have made a difference because you kind of threw the point early already. But yeah, if the fight hasn't started yet as Junkrat, do not play aggressively. Only play aggressively if you want to clean up because the fight is already won. Or if you need to get someone because the fight is going to be lost anyways. Okay. Good. So, yeah. So the first point was just a positional mistake. You were outside of your effective range and couldn't use mines. And on the second one, you weren't being, you were basically like you were being aggressive when you should have been defensive, and you were defensive when you should have been aggressive.
Yeah.
Okay, but I believe the attack is going to be much better.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
Okay. Interesting mine jumps. Not sure if those were really necessary, but it's okay.
Not really.
What took you so long here? What are you waiting for right now?
Basically, I was kind of assessing who was shooting and what there was, and waiting to see if my team was going to do anything.
Dude, there's nothing to assess. You jump up to this high ground and you spam the shit out of them. There's really nothing to assess, man.
I feel like I overcomplicate most of the things that I think about.
That's usually what happens. Overwatch is not like a complex game. It's a difficult game, but it's not complex. It's not StarCraft or anything.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really just stay alive while trying to be as useful as possible, essentially. Okay. Now this was again another mistake. I think that like not a mistake. This is actually a hard call. What I think would have been better is you use your mind to get up to the Widowmaker and then kill her with your left clicks. Although that runs the risk of you missing your shots and eventually dying. Because this look, she killed your Mofara and she's still alive. Okay. Also, you need to keep in mind your spawns are technically closer. So even if you would have traded 1 for 1 with her, that probably still would have been worth it. Because the Widowmaker is an incredibly high value pick. Okay, look what the Widowmaker is doing. She's nice one, holy shit. She's essentially stopping you from, taking that point. And if you would have taken her a little bit earlier, maybe your Genji could still be alive. But you're taking this high ground position, that's really good.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have just let him be and realize that you are at 80 HP and he's probably going to deflag. Okay. So that was a situation in which the fight wasn't decided yet. Was the fight won?
No.
Was it lost?
No.
No. So your number one priority is?
Staying alive at that point.
Very true. Okay. So sure, you really want to see who's trapped, but you also kind of don't.
Yeah.
I'm on the objective. Rally to my position.
Clearing the area.
Okay, yeah, this is not going too well. The main reason why you should have stayed alive there is because it would have allowed you to further charge your ultimate. And your ultimate is great because it allows you to just get a free pick on the Mercy.
Yeah.
Okay, that is your win condition on this point. What the fuck are you doing?
I'm waiting for my team. I was thinking.
Stop waiting! Ult charge doesn't farm itself. Why do you need your team in order to just randomly spam?
That's a good point.
Okay. A Junkrat who wouldn't have been AFK there might already have his ultimate and might have used that ultimate to kill the Mercy. But your ultimate is at 87%. Okay, now you have it. Go for the Mercy. Just find the Mercy. That's not the Mercy, and you went right through the front.
Yeah.
Do you really think it's a good idea to literally drive in front of the entire enemy team with a 100 HP tire?
No, absolutely not.
No, you definitely should have gone up the windows and then tried to come from that side somehow. Okay? Or even go behind you and take the windows and then come in from the front over here. Okay? And yes, you really needed to get the Mercy here. You even saw the Mercy beam, but you decided, I'm not going for that Mercy. I'm going for the Orisa. Which is bad because what if the Orisa would have used Fortify? Yeah, she got rezzed, or she could have used Fortify, which means she could have survived it.
I went after her because I'm fairly certain I noticed her.
Oh man, if only we had an opportunity to kill this Mercy. Oh man. Okay, so yes, you're not going to take this point. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you will. Your positioning is pretty good right now, and this Widowmaker is feeding. Okay, you're dropping down, you're getting into close range. Okay, that's good, because this team fight is looking pretty good. Okay, so you dropping down there was definitely the right choice. Okay, because that fight was leaning more towards the it's won already direction. Or rather the if you don't do anything, it's going to be lost anyways direction.
Right.
Either whichever perspective you want to take. So going in aggressively there was instead of like waiting was definitely the right choice.
Objective A captured.
Okay, but yes, you not getting that mercy made things very like unnecessarily complicated, and it took you longer than it should have to actually get your ultimate. I wouldn't actually go with your team. I would spam from main. The enemies have an oh god.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna 1v1 a Sombra, and then Hog came out of nowhere.
I mean, why did you run around the corner with 0 shots?
I did not notice that.
That's not good. You need to know how many shots you have before running in front of enemies. But yeah, so when your teammates come from the left side, okay, Junkrat is a character that benefits a lot from having a good angle of attack. So right there, if your team goes left, you want to either come from main, or you might even want to come from the right side. Okay? Because that's going to make it so that you won't get EMP'd as easily, and it means that the enemy Orisa, okay, her shield doesn't go 360 degrees. So either she'll block the damage from your teammates, or she'll block your damage. Okay? But if you walk with your team, she doesn't need to make that choice. Okay, just wait for your teammates to finish feeding. Get out, just... Okay. And hopefully you'll be able to do something with your ulti. Okay, that mine was interesting. Okay, this is good. You should use your ultimate now. You should finish this. Your Pharah already got her pick. You need to use your ulti and kill someone here. Please, ulti. Ulti! Okay. On 2 CP, you should use your ultimate as soon as you get the first pick.
Okay.
If you see that your team is somewhat grouped up, okay, i.e. they haven't died in the last 3 seconds, and you see one of your teammates gets a pick, instantly use your ultimate.
Okay.
Okay, because that means that you can snowball that fight. Look, your Pharah got 3 kills. Man, if only you could have ulted that soldier before he killed your Mercy and Pharah. Wouldn't that have been great? So yes, you definitely used your ultimate way too late there. Yeah. Okay, on 2 CP, as soon as you get that first pick, you can use it. Okay, on other maps where the spawns aren't this messed up, okay, where the spawns are a little more even, like payload maps or King of the Hill, there you can use your ultimate to get the first pick. But if you're attacking Anubis, you really want to wait until your teammates get a pick. And on the other hand, if you're defending the second point on Anubis, you really want to wait until the enemies get a pick for you to use your ultimate on defense. Okay. But on maps where the spawns are even, like Lijiang Tower, you want to use your ultimate early, okay, to get the first pick.
Okay.
Okay, because a first pick is usually a 1 team fight on those maps, whereas here getting a pick doesn't guarantee that you'll actually get the point. So you really want to save your ultimates for situations where the chances of you taking the point as a consequence are very high. Also, you're literally being fucking AFK again.
Yeah.
Your ult charge doesn't farm itself. Okay, there we go. You got a pick, man. Look at you go. Now, if only you had your ultimate, but apparently we decided to stare at a wall for 30 seconds.
Pretty much.
Look, you even got a second pick, man. Let's fucking go. Imagine, let's just imagine you had 40% more ult charge right now. This would be a free take. You could ult, you could kill the Mercy. But no. We'll just let the Mercy live and res people, because, you know, that's great. So now you playing aggressively there was good, okay, but now you need to play defensively, because this fight isn't decided yet. You just want to focus on staying alive. Okay. Good trap. Good mine, okay. Again, an ultimate would be great, but we don't have it yet. Okay, there we go, just use it. Kill her. Nice, okay, that was good. Yeah, I think you should be able to get this. Nice. Okay. So yes, it was more coincidence. Like, you made the right thing, just not like... Yeah. I don't think you really thought about all of these things, if you know what I mean. And once you actually start thinking about these things, you'll play a lot more consistently as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Prepare to attack. Select your
So... So let's watch this second attack and then we'll summarize, because my next coachee is giving me shit.
Fair enough.
But don't worry, like we have time. I'm going to give them extra time as well, so it's not like there's much to complain about. So this time you start shooting a lot earlier, which is good. Now you realize these mines don't actually land in anything, and so you don't think that maybe you should change your angle. Like, you just fired like 10 mines, none of them actually hit anything. There we go, the first one landed. okay. One of the main advantages of Junkrat is that he can deal damage without the enemies even seeing him. Okay. So why did you decide to like literally stand right out in the open? The cover is over here to the left. Cover is important. You should use it. Okay. Like I don't know why he didn't kill you there. You were like.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, why didn't you place a trap there?
Because I was assuming Soldier was gonna come in.
Well, yes, so why didn't you put the trap there?
I don't know.
So that when he would come in, he would get trapped and you could kill... Like right here, put a trap, like... You're waiting for someone to come in, but you're not placing your trap. Oh man, if only there was a trap there! Ah, wouldn't that have been great?
Just a bit.
Just a bit, okay. But no, we're just gonna... not use one of our abilities. Like, imagine Blizzard would remove Junkrat's trap. Do you think anyone would still play him besides pro like Crow?
Most likely not.
Most likely not. So use the ability if you would be that mad about them removing it. Otherwise, like, they'll see this gameplay and they'll be like, oh, okay, Junkrat players aren't using this ability anyway, so I'm sure that they won't mind if we remove it, right?
Yeah.
Okay? Don't give Blizzard ideas. You want to convince them that, you know, your trap is the greatest ability of all time. That's how much you love it. Okay, good. You're coming from behind. It's always good as Junkrat, trying to search for an angle of attack where you're shooting past the enemy shields. That's good. Okay. Now you can play... Okay, you don't have mines to play aggressively. Never mind. But you should be able to, like... You have your ultimate, so... I feel confident. Now, here's the thing. Now, on the second push, you need to use your ultimate first, okay? Because this is an exception, because usually you would want to wait for a pick, but now you don't have time for a pick, okay? So just ult as early as you can, like right here, just press Q, press Q. Go and press Q, just right now. Oh, okay, you didn't have it, never mind. Now you can press Q. Okay. Nice, okay, you got the Ana, that's good. But she died, which is bad. Probably should have used it from a little farther back, but again, I didn't see that you didn't actually have your ultimate yet. Okay, you guys had so many ultimates. This would have been like the freest take in history. Actually insane. Unlucky, the McCree's cleaning up.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is over, but she
It is.
tried. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Nothing that comes to mind at the moment.
You sure?
I mean, I've learned quite a bit from just this, kind of understanding most of the mistakes that I've made now.
Okay, well, that's easier than expected. Then I guess there's not really much more for me to tell you, I guess. I mean,
Fair enough. I'm
kind of mentioned everything already.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking into consideration some of the things you're saying to try to focus on in my next games. And looking at the mistakes I've made here, I can take notes and
You know,
work on
prioritizing
those.
mercies or supports in general. Do you know why supports have such a high target priority?
I believe just because they keep everyone else alive most of the time.
No. I'm gonna let you in on a high level secret. Okay, don't tell anyone. The reason you focus supports, especially with characters like Tracer, is not because they heal everyone. That's not it. Target priority is a lot simpler than people make it out to be. It's a very, very simple concept. Okay, if you ever wonder what's going through a pro player's mind regarding target priority, his target priority is shoot whatever is easiest to kill. Okay, that's his target priority. If he sees 6 enemies, he's gonna shoot the enemy that he can kill the fastest. Okay. If there's no one he can kill, then he goes for the target that gives him the most ult charge. Okay, that is high-level target prioritization on basically every single character, bar a few exceptions. Okay. With this knowledge in mind, why are they focusing supports?
I'm not sure now, actually.
Why are supports... Okay, so obviously because they're easiest to kill. Okay? They aren't killing supports because they're supports, they're killing supports because they're easiest to kill.
Okay, that
Why
makes
are
a lot of
supports the easiest characters to kill?
sense. Most likely because they don't have enough damage usually to...
No,
Really?
that's not what you care about. That's not what you care about. Why are supports the easiest characters to kill?
completely sure.
Let's take Mercy, for example.
Okay.
Why do pros focus Mercy so much?
I believe because she can res, undo mistakes that their team makes or just picks.
That is true, but that's not the main reason they're focusing her. One of the main reasons they're focusing her is because she's easiest to kill. And the reason that she's easiest to kill, okay, and it's something that you might have not thought about before. If the enemy team consists of, imagine the enemy team only has the Mercy. Okay, there's only a Mercy on the enemy team as a support, and you know the rest are just 2 tanks, 3 DPS.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why is Mercy the easiest to kill in that team comp?
Most likely because she would have the hardest time fighting back.
A Reinhardt can't really fight back against a Tracer either.
That's true.
But even if the Reinhardt had the same amount of HP as Mercy, why is Mercy easier to kill? I mean, you know, Reinhardt has like a much larger hitbox, so theoretically he should be a lot easier to kill compared to Mercy. So why Mercy? And that particular team comp, what makes her easiest to kill?
I don't know.
In that team comp, Mercy is the only character on the entire team that doesn't get any healing.
Oh.
Okay, so when you play Tracer and you focused on the enemy Reinhardt, he's going to get healed. If you focused on the enemy McCree, getting healed. If you focus the enemy Soldier, getting healed. The enemy Zarya, getting healed. Okay, but if you focused the enemy Mercy, okay, that damage is permanent. Okay, you don't get most of your kills with 1 clips. Okay, that's not how it works. Okay, with Soldier, the only way that you can actually kill him is by 1 clipping him. Because otherwise, all of the damage you've done is just going to get healed back up. But if you deal 50 damage to a Mercy, that damage is essentially permanent. So you can go back in and deal another 50 damage, and then another 50 damage, and then another 50 damage. And as long as her passive regeneration doesn't kick in, which it won't as long as you keep focusing her,
Right.
she's going to slowly die. But you can't slowly kill the other targets, okay? It can take you 15 seconds to take down the Mercy. That's no problem. But if it would take you 15 seconds to kill a Soldier, that's more than enough time for the Mercy to just heal him.
Right.
Okay? So that's one of the main reasons why supports are being focused. And it's the same thing with... Oh my god, my alarm is ringing. And it's the same thing with Junkrat as well, okay? With spam damage, okay? If you just shoot spam damage at the enemy tanks, it's going to give you a lot of ult charge, but that damage isn't actually going to be permanent, okay? Right. But if you throw your mine at an Ana or a Mercy, that forces, you know, the Mercy either to fall back, or it forces the Ana to use her nade, okay? And then if you know, throw some more mines, okay, eventually they're going to slowly die. Okay, that damage is permanent. And worst case, okay, the Mercy can't heal herself. So she needs to either look for a health pack or get out of line of sight in order to, you know, get some passive regeneration, which is obviously not great for her. Okay? So that's one of the main reasons why focusing supports is so great. Okay? Because, and that's why Mercy's ultimate is so incredibly strong. Because normally killing Mercy is kind of even, because while she has a very hard to hit hitbox, you know, all of the damage you deal to her is usually permanent.
Right.
But during her ultimate, okay, she has a hard to hit hitbox, even harder to hit than outside of her ultimate, and she passively regenerates health, which, you know, combines into making her essentially unkillable. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'd never thought about it that way before.
Well, there you go. Okay, so then I guess there's not much more for me to tell you, really. I hope you got something out of this session.
I feel like I got a lot
and
from it.
That's great to hear. It means that I did my job and I can sleep at peace. If you really liked it, you can also take the time. It would be very much appreciated if you could go to this page and make use of your First Amendment. I don't know, is it the First Amendment? USA First Amendment. I don't fucking man. Why is Google so hard? Where is it? Free exercise. Yeah, exactly. Okay, you can use your First Amendment. bars Congress from abridging the freedom. Okay, you need to abuse the right that the Congress can't abridge your freedom of speech or of the press in order to write a review. It would be very much appreciated, okay?
Will do.
Okay, great. Go USA. Or something. I don't know. Have a good one, man.
Listen up.
See ya.
Thank you.